Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders have seen plenty of chaos, but nothing compares to the JaMarcus Russell era, a stretch so disastrous it permanently changed how NFL teams negotiate rookie contracts. He showed up late, out of shape, and completely unprepared, finishing with just 18 career touchdown passes and 23 interceptions while completing barely 52% of his throws. The Raiders went 7-18 in games he played, and coaches later revealed he ignored film assignments entirely. His massive contract crippled the roster and forced the league to overhaul rookie salaries, and his struggles set the tone for what came next. But it gets crazier in the next chapter. San Diego Chargers. Ryan Leaf arrived with expectations nearly identical to Peyton Manning's, yet immediately unraveled into one of the NFL's messiest experiments. Leaf finished his rookie year with a 2-15 touchdown to interception ratio, a 45% completion rate, and multiple off-field blow-ups that shook the franchise. His passer rating in year one was an abysmal 39. And he never recovered. Teammates lost faith, coaches lost patience, and the Chargers lost nearly every game he played. His fall became a cautionary tale for every evaluator. But as shocking as Leaf's flameout was, the next team faced something even more damaging. Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's quarterback carousel produced many disasters, but Deshaun Kaiser's rookie season stands out as the franchise's lowest moment. He led the Browns to an 0-16 season while throwing 11 touchdowns and 22 interceptions with a passer rating of 60.5. He also led the league in turnovers and completed just 53% of his passes. Cleveland fell behind early in virtually every game, and Kaiser's struggles exposed a roster and coaching staff that simply wasn't ready to support a young quarterback. His confidence never recovered, and neither did the team that year, but the next franchise meltdown was even more public. New York Jets. Zach Wilson arrived as the second overall pick and quickly became one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in modern Jets history. His rookie season featured 11 interceptions, a 3-10 record, and long stretches where the Jets failed to score a single touchdown with him under center. His footwork, timing, and pocket presence never translated, and his completion percentage hovered near 55%. Fans lost patience after multiple three-point performances and a viral press conference moment that damaged his locker room standing. The Jets ultimately benched him several times, but it gets worse when you look at a team that suffered through even harsher numbers. Buffalo Bills. Nathan Peterman's time in Buffalo is remembered for one infamous stat line: 5 interceptions in the first half of his debut. No quarterback in NFL history had ever started that poorly, and his struggles continued as he finished his Bills career with 3 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. His completion percentage barely cracked 52%, and Buffalo rarely crossed midfield when he played. Even short throws became risky, and defenses openly baited him into mistakes. The Bills eventually turned things over to Josh Allen, but Peterman's stretch remains one of the most brutal auditions ever recorded, and the next team paid a heavy price for their own miss. Denver Broncos. Paxton Lynch was drafted in the first round to replace Peyton Manning, yet he never came close to earning the job. Lynch started just 4 games, threw only 4 total touchdowns, and completed 61% of his passes while looking overwhelmed by NFL defenses. His footwork stalled, his processing lagged behind, and teammates privately questioned his work habits. Denver's offense collapsed whenever he entered the game, and the Broncos went 1-3 in his limited starts. The miss set the franchise back years and triggered a full reset at quarterback, but another franchise whiff might be even more damaging when you look at the numbers. Houston Texans. David Carr's rookie season was historic for all the wrong reasons, including an NFL record 76 sacks taken behind Houston's expansion-era offensive line. Carr never recovered from the constant hits, finishing his Texans career with 65 touchdowns, 71 interceptions, and 22 wins across 5 seasons. His internal clock evaporated, his mechanics deteriorated, and Houston's offense rarely threatened defenses. The Texans hoped he could grow with the roster, but the punishment he took altered his trajectory permanently. His downfall became a case study in how poor protection can destroy a young passer, and the next quarterback's struggles came from a completely different problem. Cincinnati Bengals. Akili Smith ran a blazing 4.66 40 and dominated pre-draft workouts, but once he arrived in Cincinnati, he could not grasp the playbook. In 17 starts, he threw just 5 touchdowns with 13 interceptions while completing a shocking 46.6% of his attempts. The Bengals expected a dynamic athlete who could change their franchise. yet they found themselves simplifying the offense weekly just to keep him afloat. Defenses crowded the box, knowing Smith rarely pushed the ball downfield with accuracy. His accuracy issues proved impossible to fix by year 2. But before we go any further, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Minnesota Vikings. Christian Ponder flashed promise in 2012, leading Minnesota to the playoffs, but his career quickly fell apart when defenses forced him to throw downfield. His final stretch included a 2-6-1 record, a passer rating under 78, and multiple games where he failed to crack 170 yards. His accuracy vanished under pressure, and his mechanics regressed sharply. Fans hoped he would stabilize the roster, but he threw nearly as many interceptions as touchdowns and struggled to read defenses pre-snap. Minnesota cycled through backups just to spark the offense, and the next franchise found itself drowning in turnovers too. Detroit Lions. Joey Harrington entered Detroit as the 3rd overall pick, yet never found rhythm behind a struggling roster. He finished his Lions career with an 18-37 record, 60 interceptions, and a passer rating barely above 68. Harrington's decision-making deteriorated each season, and Detroit constantly played from behind as drives fizzled early. He rarely connected on downfield throws, and defenses sat on short routes, knowing the Lions' offense lacked explosiveness. Fans grew frustrated as turnovers piled up and progress stalled. His tenure added to Detroit's cycle of quarterback heartbreak. Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals believed Matt Leinart would become the long-term answer after a decorated college career, but his NFL production never matched the hype. Across 4 seasons, he threw just 14 touchdowns and 20 interceptions, and Arizona went 8-10 in his starts. Defenses quickly learned he struggled when forced off his first read, and his completion percentage stayed stuck near 56%. Kurt Warner eventually reclaimed the job, and Leinart never earned it back. The Cardinals hoped he would be their franchise cornerstone, but his development stalled early, and the team shifted directions fast. And what happened next shows another team dealing with a similar letdown: Chicago Bears. Cade McNown looked like a fiery leader at UCLA, yet his NFL stint became infamous for accuracy issues and locker room clashes. In Chicago, he started 15 games, produced a 3-12 record, and threw only 16 touchdowns against 19 interceptions. His completion rate barely reached 54%, and teammates reportedly struggled with his attitude and preparation. The Bears cycled through schemes trying to keep him afloat, but nothing generated momentum. McNown was traded after just 2 years and out of the league shortly after. His fall became one more chapter in Chicago's long history of quarterback frustration, but another franchise had its own disappointment brewing. Baltimore Ravens. Kyle Baller showed off elite arm strength, but that upside never turned into consistent production. He completed under 57% of his passes in Baltimore, threw 44 interceptions, and posted a 20-22 record across 6 seasons. Despite inheriting top-tier defenses, he struggled to sustain drives and often forced throws into tight coverage. Ravens fans watched winnable games slip away when the offense stalled late. Bowler flashed potential, but never put together the breakout season the team expected. His inconsistency pushed Baltimore to overhaul their offense, and the next franchise faced an even more dramatic implosion under center: Philadelphia Eagles. Bobby Hoying delivered a strong finish to the 1997 season, but the hope vanished the moment the next year began. He opened 1998 with a 1-6 record and infamously went weeks without throwing a touchdown, despite completing 191 passes. His final stat line included 9 interceptions and a passer rating in the low 50s. Defenses blitzed relentlessly, confident he could not punish coverage rotations. Philadelphia eventually benched him, and he never regained a starting job. Hoying's collapse forced the Eagles into a full reset at quarterback, and the next team experienced its own massive setback in the passing game: Pittsburgh Steelers. Mark Malone stepped in after Terry Bradshaw retired, but the offense sputtered under his leadership. Across 48 starts, he threw 68 interceptions, completed barely 50% of his attempts, and never topped 3,000 passing yards in a season. Pittsburgh's defense kept them competitive, yet Malone's struggles repeatedly killed momentum. Deep throws often sailed high, and short routes lacked timing. Fans grew frustrated as the offense failed to evolve. Malone lasted 4 years as the starter, but his inconsistency kept the Steelers from climbing back into contention. And while Pittsburgh tried to stabilize things, another NFC giant battled its own quarterback crisis: Dallas Cowboys. Chad Hutchinson entered the league after a brief MLB career and immediately looked overwhelmed by NFL speed. He completed just 50.8% of his passes, threw 8 interceptions in 9 starts, and finished with a 2-7 record. Dallas hoped his arm talent would shine once he settled in, but he rarely showed command of the offense. Drives stalled repeatedly, and turnovers erased any momentum he built. The Cowboys eventually moved on, turning instead to a young Tony Romo years later. Hutchinson's struggles were glaring, but the Saints dealt with a different type of disappointment in their own quarterback room. New Orleans Saints. Keith Shuler's final NFL season came in New Orleans, and it was his most turbulent stretch. He won 4 games, but threw only 2 touchdowns and 14 interceptions while completing just 48% of his passes. The offense became turnover-prone, and defenses routinely capitalized on misreads. His passer rating dipped below 45, one of the lowest marks in franchise history. Shuler retired shortly after, shifting careers entirely. His short tenure left the Saints searching for stability again, and the next team on the list faced its own historic offensive challenges during a lost season. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Steve Spurrier became the Buccaneers' first starting quarterback in 1976, an expansion season remembered for its brutal offensive numbers. He completed just 50.2% of his passes with 7 touchdowns and 12 interceptions as Tampa Bay went 0-14. The offense averaged under 9 points per game, and Spurrier was sacked relentlessly behind a developing line. Tampa Bay cycled through quarterbacks quickly, but none could overcome the roster's early growing pains. Spurrier's season remains a painful reminder of how hard expansion football can be, and Jacksonville fans would learn that lesson through their own struggles a few decades later. Jacksonville Jaguars. Blaine Gabbert entered the league with 4.6 speed and a strong arm, but the transition proved far tougher than expected. Across 27 starts with the Jaguars, he posted a 5-22 record, threw just 22 touchdowns, and completed 53.3% of his passes. Pressure unraveled his mechanics, and his pocket presence never developed. Injuries pushed him in and out of the lineup, and Jacksonville's offense rarely threatened defenses vertically. Despite a few late flashes, Gabbert couldn't regain his confidence. His time in Jacksonville ended with a trade, but for the next team, the disappointment came long before injuries played a role. Indianapolis Colts. Jack Trudeau became known for one unfortunate stat: 62 interceptions across just 47 starts. He completed only 52.9% of his passes, and the Colts offense routinely finished near the bottom of the league during his tenure. Turnovers derailed promising drives, and opposing defenses baited him into risky throws. The Colts won just 13 games in his starts, creating a stretch of frustration that lasted several seasons. His inconsistency eventually pushed Indianapolis toward another rebuild. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Carolina Panthers. Chris Weinke entered the league as a former Heisman winner, but his rookie season in Carolina quickly spiraled into one of the toughest quarterback campaigns ever recorded. The Panthers went 1-15, and Weinke threw 19 interceptions with a completion percentage just above 54%. Defenses stacked the box and forced him to beat them through the air, but accuracy issues and stalled drives prevented the offense from finding any rhythm. Carolina's scoring plummeted, and Weinke never regained the starting job after that season. His struggles became a reminder of how unforgiving rookie development can be, and the franchise found itself in a similar situation. Kansas City Chiefs. Tyler Palko's short run as Kansas City's starter in 2011 became infamous for its turnover issues and lack of scoring punch. He threw 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions across 4 starts, finishing with a passer rating under 60. Defenses blitzed heavily, knowing he struggled to push the ball downfield. Kansas City failed to score a touchdown in 2 of his starts, and the offense produced long stretches of 3-and-outs. Fans quickly realized the experiment was not working. Palko was replaced shortly after, but the next team dealt with a far deeper quarterback dilemma that stretched for seasons. Green Bay Packers. Before the Packers enjoyed decades of stability with Favre and Aaron Rodgers, they endured the turbulence of the Randy Wright era. Wright posted a 7-25 record as a starter, threw 57 interceptions to just 31 touchdowns, and completed under 55% of his passes. He also took 85 sacks in 32 starts, and Green Bay's offense frequently sputtered early in games. The Packers cycled through coaches and schemes trying to revive the passing attack, but Wright never found consistency. His tenure marked a rare low point in Green Bay quarterback history. And down in Miami, the struggles came from a very different type of setback. Miami Dolphins. Cleo Lemon stepped into a post-Marino franchise desperate for stability, yet Miami's offense was at its weakest during his time under center. Lemon went 1-7 as a starter, threw 7 interceptions, and lost 7 fumbles. His pocket presence faltered under pressure, and the Dolphins often abandoned the passing game entirely to minimize mistakes. Lemon's lone win came in overtime, but even that spark wasn't enough to salvage the season. Miami continued searching for answers long after he left, and the next franchise on the list dealt with its own quarterback turbulence across multiple eras. New England Patriots. Jim Plunkett entered the league as the #1 overall pick, but his Patriots tenure fell far short of expectations. Across 61 starts, he threw 87 interceptions, completed just 48.5% of his passes, and struggled behind an offensive line that allowed constant pressure. His second season alone featured 25 interceptions, and New England's offense finished near the bottom of the league multiple years in a row. Plunkett showed poise and toughness, but the system around him never helped his development. New England moved on after 6 seasons, and the next team faced a collapse defined by one unforgettable mistake: New York Giants. Joe Pisarcik became part of NFL history for all the wrong reasons, thanks to the infamous miracle at the Meadowlands. Beyond that moment, his on-field production never stabilized. Pisarcik completed just 44.5% of his passes, threw 43 interceptions to 18 touchdowns, and struggled to sustain drives. The Giants' offense frequently stalled before midfield, and turnovers derailed any momentum they built. His decision-making on late-game snaps became a point of concern, and eventually the team shifted directions entirely. New York rebuilt quickly afterward, while the next franchise endured a long stretch of quarterback misfortune. Washington Commanders. Heath Shuler's time in Washington was marked by injuries, inconsistency, and mounting expectations he never managed to meet. He started 13 games and threw 33 interceptions against just 15 touchdowns, completing only 47.7% of his passes. Washington simplified the offense repeatedly, but defenses still forced him into hurried decisions. The team struggled to stay competitive in games he started, and Shuler was eventually benched before being traded. His tenure became one of the franchise's most well-known draft misses. And while Washington shifted strategies, the next team found its own long-term struggles under center. Seattle Seahawks. Rick Muir entered the league as the second overall pick and had a promising rookie year, but immediately regressed in the seasons that followed. Across 4 years with Seattle, he threw 41 interceptions, posted a passer rating of 65, and failed to lead the team to a winning season. His mechanics unraveled under pressure, and his accuracy downfield never improved. Seattle cycled through coordinators trying to reignite his development, but the spark never returned. Myra's decline became one of the league's most dramatic sophomore regressions, and the next team faced a similar battle with inefficiency in the passing game. San Francisco 49ers. Ken Dorsey was a college star, but his NFL tools never translated into consistent production. Across 10 starts with the 49ers, he threw just 6 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and completed a modest 54% of his passes. San Francisco's offense struggled to stretch the field when he played, and drives often stalled in the red zone. Dorsey's arm strength limited the playbook, forcing the team into conservative schemes. The 49ers finished near the bottom of the league in scoring during his starts, and he never regained a starting role afterward. And the next team endured an even more brutal stretch at quarterback. Los Angeles Rams. Keith Noll's brief NFL career came during a turbulent phase for the Rams offense. In his 4 starts, he threw 9 interceptions to just 3 touchdowns, finishing with a passer rating under 50. Stalled drives, turnovers, and red zone struggles defined his audition. Defenses quickly keyed in on short routes, knowing he rarely pushed the ball vertically. The Rams offense averaged just 12 points per game in his starts, and the team moved on after 1 season. His stint remains one of the franchise's toughest quarterback experiments, and the final team on the list experienced its own struggles with a young passer. Atlanta Falcons. Kim McQuilkin's time with Atlanta produced some of the most lopsided passing numbers ever recorded. Across 12 starts, he threw just 4 touchdowns with 29 interceptions, finishing his career with a passer rating of 17.9. His completion percentage stayed under 40%, and the Falcons' offense ranked near the bottom of the league every season he played. Defenses flooded passing lanes, confident he could not challenge them vertically. McQuilkin's tenure became a historical outlier in NFL quarterback play, and that leads us to one final AFC team that also endured an incredibly difficult stretch at the position. Tennessee Titans. Zach Mettenberger stepped into Tennessee's lineup during a rebuild and never found traction as the starter. He finished his Titans career with a 0-10 record, completing just 60% of his passes while throwing 14 interceptions and taking 31 sacks. Tennessee's offense lacked rhythm and many drives stalled before crossing midfield. Despite solid arm strength, Mettenberger struggled to read pressures and anticipate windows downfield. The Titans transitioned quickly after his final season, searching again for a long-term answer. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.